Okay, so we've got a NAS or a PC that's not attaching its hard drive, it's not connecting to the hard drive correctly. We're going to try and use Xubuntu 18.04 to access the files on that file system to make a quick recovery to get back the data. So what I'm going to do is boot up Xubuntu 18.04 as a live disk. I'm doing this in a virtual machine in which I've attached a virtual hard disk which isn't initialized. The idea is that we've gone out, we bought a replacement hard drive, we're going to try and recover as much data off of the failed drive as possible onto the recovery hard drive. And I'm just going to illustrate how we're going to do that. So we're working as if Xubuntu is booting off of a CD drive at the moment, and the only other device in the system is the new drive, the completely blank drive that we've not got anything on. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mount one of my USB memory sticks to illustrate this, but we could use a cradle to attach a hard drive out of a NAS or a PC or whatever. First of all, I have to apologize. I'm recording this quite quickly from VirtualBox, and I haven't really got my recording set up quite right. It's not picking up my mouse pointer, so you can't actually see the pointer, which is unfortunate. But I'm going to click to try Ubuntu, not install Ubuntu. I just want to run it live off of the memory stick or CD or whatever. And the first thing I'm going to do in the live environment, I'm going to go to the settings and change the display, because in this case it's not picked up VirtualBox's display correctly. Quite often it doesn't pick up the monitor correctly in the live environment, which doesn't really matter, but just so it's easier to see. And because I'm a bit of a neat freak, I can't quite see the clock there, so I'm going to add a couple of separators to the end, just because I want to see the time. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to gparted, which should be under System. gparted, there it is. And that's one of the things I particularly like about the Xubuntu Live Disk, is you've got easy access to gparted. It's not seeing the device I booted Xubuntu off, it's only seeing this blank hard drive. So the first thing I want to do is create a partition table, and it's suggesting MS-DOS. We could go for GPT if we can guarantee that every system we try to use it on is UEFI, but I'm going to stick with MS-DOS, which you might know as MBR, or Master Boot Record. Next thing, we're going to create a partition. Again, it's suggesting ext4, which is Linux, but I'm going to create it as NTFS. At this point, I should have given it a label, and then that would have made things easier later on, but we'll create that partition. That's all done. You can see all of the commands that it's gone through, and it can keep a log of that if you wanted it to, but it's enough to know that it's done it okay. And next I'm going to install another tool which is quite like gparted, but actually I think the interface is easier and it gives us the ability to graphically create a backup. Though I am going to start off with a command line tool. I know everybody hates the command line. I could go through the App Store, but it's just quicker and easier for me to do it through the command line. So I'm going to open the terminal and I'm going to type sudo apt install, and yeah, I meant to click on the terminal and I clicked on help, sorry. Sudo apt install gnome disk utility, all lowercase with hyphens in between them. And it's going to search through the available packages. Yes, it's found it. Do I want to install it? Yes, I do. And that's another thing that I quite like about the Xubuntu Live Disk. A lot of other live disks will insist on you doing a full update, and if you try and do a full update in a live environment, you run out of memory and then you can't put on the thing you want. This is quite a quick, simple installation. And I've got it there. I never know where to find it, but I know it's in all disk. And then that's the GNOME disk tool. If you're used to Macs, it looks very much like the disk utility in Mac OS. So the next thing, I'm going to insert my USB stick or cradle with a hard drive in it. and that'll show up in the side as, in this case it's an 8 gig thumb drive SanDisk Cruiser facet. And a useful thing, we can see that I can mount it from there with a little play icon. We can create a disk image. Actually, what I should be doing is mounting the blank disk that we've created. And at this point I get a little bit confused because normally that would appear on the desktop, but it's not. And then when I look at it I realise, oh, yeah, I didn't give that disk a name, did I? In previous attempts I'd called it backup, which was nice and easy, but we'll just mount it and we can see it's there. Media Xubuntu and whatever that number is. I think that's the volume ID number. So we're going to create a disk image. We're going to put it on that crazy number. Start creating. And this takes quite a long time. The first time round I did it, I used I think it was a 32 gig stick, and I used it stupidly in a USB 1 port, and I was going to run out of hard drive space just for the video. Obviously, the larger the disk and the slower the interface you have it on, the longer it's going to take. This doesn't actually take too long, but I am still going to speed up the video here. I'm going to illustrate that actually gparted can also see that disk, and from there you can do things like check the disk, or you can change the size of the partitions or whatever. It's quite a powerful tool, but it's not as easy to use as the GNOME disk utility. I thought there was an eject on there, but what I'm going to do is open a file manager, and the easiest way to do that is just to open my home folder, and then I'm going to eject the USB stick, because obviously we don't want to risk any of the data that's on that. We don't want to damage that. Just eject multi-boot, and then we'll go into this 137 gig drive and we'll mount that disk image. And you can see multi-boot there, even though I've removed the USB stick or cradle or whatever you're using. And you can see all the files there. They've all got that little padlock on them because that mount is owned by the root, and it's not interpreting the user permissions right, because they've not come from this system. All the user permissions have come from an alien system, so we don't know this user. If we look at the properties, we'll see all of these files will belong to Xubuntu and be read-only. If you wanted to actually gain full control so you could make modifications to any of that stuff, there is a way. And I'm going to go to the terminal again. There's an easier way if you were going to do it all the time, but we're just in a live environment, so everything's going to be wiped later on once we reboot. So we take this command out of there, make a copy of it, and we'll sudo that command, which will then launch the file manager, as you can see, as root. So now we can do some damage to that disk, if we wanted to. And that's how we're going to do that. And then all I need to do is shut down. Thank you for watching.